Hey, so I'm back. So for this video, and just heads up, I don't think I'll make the 15-minute mark that I usually try to stay in for Instagram and Facebook. So this will probably go over, maybe, I don't know. But for this video, I wanted to continue on this vein and actually share my what I pulled out from Mike Brown's testimony. So this is kind of like a part two. The last video, we were talking about who are the Israelites, the posture of asking Yah. And the purpose of like this set of videos is not really, it's not really to like bang y'all with scriptures about who the Israelites are, right? That's actually not even the point. The point is, what I took from when I saw Mike Brown's testimony, and just I wanted to discuss that because I think that applies to like a lot of us or a lot of people. And so the central point, if you go back and watch the first video, it would just it's dealt with the posture of asking Yahuwah a question. And the central theme is most people, particularly when it comes to the topic of who are the Israelites, particularly when we're talking about this belief system that the Israelites, the tribes are black, most people, they decide, right? They just decide what they believe. This is what I've seen, right? They decide what they believe, but they've never actually taken the time out of their lives to position themselves in a posture to ask Yahuwah. And so we talked about that in the last video. We talked about how to do that. And the example of that, ironically, that I wanted to discuss is Mike Brown. Again, he's Jewish. He is Messianic. He's popular, I think, in like a lot of Christian circles. I think he has like a podcast. So, but anyways, the point is, this is dealing with his testimony. Because, and this specifically, and I want to share where I got it. So it came up in my algorithm and I watched it, but it's this YouTube channel. And actually, let me say this, it's this YouTube channel and it's called Jews for Jesus. Now listen, you guys know I subscribe to Israelite belief systems, right? That black people are the Israelites. With that being, I don't believe that Jewish people are the biblical bloodline Israelites. However, with that being said, the guy that does Jews for Jesus, I mean, obviously we don't agree on some things, but his evangelistic style, I actually think it's dope how he goes. I think he lives in Israel, but he goes about and he talks to Jewish people about, just their thoughts and concepts on Yahusha, on Jesus. And so evangelistic wise, yeah, I think that's dope how he can connect with people. With that being said, that was the video that popped up. It was him, I think, interviewing Mike Brown and then Mike Brown shared his testimony. So I want to talk about Mike Brown's testimony. That's just for context in case anybody wants to go watch it themselves. That's where I saw it. So, but we're talking about Mike Brown's testimony. So this is what I want to get into. Mike Brown, and I'm butchering this. You guys can go to the source. So I'm going to just summarize. So effectively, when Mike Brown started his testimony, he said that him coming to God, right? So just for background, obviously, he's Jewish. He grew up, I think he said he grew up like non-religious, like he was a non-religious Jew, meaning like, I don't think he was deep into anything, he just was Jewish by culture, by faith, but not really practicing. So anyways, he said that when he was a teenager, right, he got into drugs, right? So I guess he had a whole testimony of, getting addicted to drugs, right? So he was addicted to drugs. Long story short, he was in a band. I think he said when he was in high school or when he was younger, he was in a band. Two of his, they were all friends. They were, I think, all addicted to drugs. But two of his bandmates actually found Christ, right? So they found Christ. They started going to church. So they started first going to church. And then, he was with them through this transformation. So eventually, they invited him. He went to church. He started going to church. I can't remember the reason why, but he started going. But anyways, long story short, he got saved, right? So he got saved. He gave his life over. He became a Christian. He believed in Jesus. So after he, had an encounter with God, he found God. Now, actually, please go listen to his testimony, because the way he described it, it actually is great. He was addicted to drugs. God delivered him from that. God healed him. God pulled him out of the throes of addiction, right? He delivered him. So I do think that is inspiring. So, if you feel inspired, go listen. Okay, moving on. We come to now he's Jewish. So we come to the point where, we talk about Jesus, right? Because, a lot of Jewish people, they don't believe in Jesus. So he was saying that he came to this point, right? So he was debating. Now, most of the time, now remember, he's saved. He got saved. He was debating people. He said that, this is what struck me. He said that he was debating people that didn't really know a lot about the Bible. Okay, right? I guess they didn't know, so that was easy to debate. But eventually he came up across rabbis. Okay, he came up with rabbis. Now, these were men who were very well versed in maybe the Talmud or maybe the Old Testament, but they were rabbis, they were, theologians, they were, very well versed in the word. So he said that when he got to them, he met a wall, right? Meaning he's Jewish and he's trying to, quote unquote, debate the rabbis as to why Yahusha is the way, Jesus is the way. So up until that point, he had been dealing with people that didn't really deal with the Bible like that. But then he came up to the point where he was dealing with rabbis, and it was kind of like, he couldn't go any further. These were men that were well versed. So he said that this was a catalyst that had him to come back, back to himself. And he said, wait a minute, I'm butchering, but he said he had to come back and go to God. He had to come back and go to Yahuwah and say, these rabbis, they have some points, they have points. And so now he says that now he could debate the rabbis, but at that time, remember, he was young, he had just gotten saved. He wasn't well versed in the word, I guess. So at that time, he thought the rabbis were bringing really strong points that testified against Yahusha. So he said, now this, I did a lot of talking, but I had to set that stage, right? So this is where we're coming to the point where I feel like this is the crux of the story and of this video. Mike Brown, okay, after all the debating, after joining a church, after all these things, effectively, it came down to he had to go back to God and have a particular posture. The posture of how Mike Brown approached the throne was what convinced him that Yahusha existed. Now, remember, he's Jewish, but the church and all this other stuff, that wasn't what helped show him, being Jewish, that Yahusha is the way, the truth, and the life. Okay, that wasn't what helped. Ultimately, what helped was this posture that we've been talking about, right? This posture of how to approach the throne with a question, or how to approach the throne. In this case, Mike Brown was, I'm just going to keep talking. I'm going to run out of time, but it's fine. I'm going to keep going. But the posture of how to approach the throne. So Mike Brown came to the end. He couldn't debate rabbis. He couldn't do any of those things. But remember, he had an encounter. Remember, God delivered him. That was real. God delivered him out of addictions. So he had an encounter. But the debate wasn't helping him when it came to needing final confirmation. Is Jesus, what the world calls Jesus, Yahusha, is he real? And if so, is he the only way to salvation? So Mike Brown said that he, just came, he had his alone time with God. I guess he got on his knees and he told God, now this is what it is. This is why I was talking about the posture of how to approach the throne, which ironically he did when it was time to shut it all down. Okay. And find out, is Jesus real? This is what Mike Brown did. He First, remember, he had an encounter with God. He had an encounter. And this is what he says in his testimony. He says, I went to God and I know God is real. God delivered me out of addictions. He delivered me. I know he's real, but I need to know, is Jesus real? Is this thing about Jesus real? So remember, debating took him only so far. He needed to know. So he approached the throne and he told God, this is what I'm talking about, the process. If you go back in the last video, the process was an encounter with God. Okay. Then he asked Yahuwah. He was crying out. He had an open heart. Remember, his heart was an open garden, ready to receive the answer. So he had an open heart. And this is the huge part. This is the part that most people aren't willing to do. He told God, this is it. He told God in his testimony, he says, I told God, I don't care. If you tell me, he said, I'll follow you no matter what. If you tell me right now that Jesus is real, I will go. I'm riding. I'm going with you. I don't care. Now you got to remember, this is deep because he's Jewish. He's Jewish. If Jesus is real, that means he's going to have a little bit of conflict with, with his family, with his background. It's changing some of the things, but he's looking for the truth. He's looking for an encounter. And so what I'm saying is he was ready to give up everything to follow Yah in the truth. When it came to, is Jesus real? And he told Yah that, and he meant it, because obviously, God showed up. So he meant it. So the fourth thing is, and this is something that I think I want to talk about. The fourth thing is this willingness to tell God, I will follow you wherever. Let me pause here. When it comes to people asking who, because remember, I'm doing all this talk about, I don't want you to miss the point. The point of this is asking Yahuwah, who are the Israelites? Are the Israelites black? Most people just decide that that's not true, or that it's a conspiracy theory. Most people do not take this posture of seeking an encounter, asking Yah, having an open heart for the answer. And step number four is what it is. It's the declaration that no matter what answer you give me, God, I'm following you. I said this in the last video, particularly when it comes to the topic of who the Israelites are. Most people, they don't do this because I think somewhere they know that it's not true. They know they're not going to follow God no matter what the answer is, because that's the answer that they don't like. And let me say this. I think that Mike Brown is a wonderful example, because when it came to, is Jesus real? He was willing to put it all to the wall. He was willing. He told God, I don't even care. I'm following you. I don't care. I'm following you no matter what. You healed me. You saved me from addictions. You pulled me out of addictions. I know you're real. I'm Jewish, but if you tell me right now Jesus is real, I'm rocking. Jesus is real, and he's my Messiah, and I'm rocking with it, and I'm following you. And God answered him, and we know now he's a Messianic Jew. He had an encounter. What I'm saying is the same way that he asked Yahusha, or the same way that he, first of all, asked God, brought God into the decision. The same way that he told God, I'm following you no matter what. The same way that he did that in order to see if Jesus was real is the same way that most people, him included, should do that to see if the Israelites are black. That's really what I'm saying. I'm saying most people are not going to do that, because you can even take Mike Brown. If Mike Brown goes to God and asks him these questions, right, and has an encounter, you got to think about what he's giving up. He's giving up his heritage, what he believes to be his heritage. Actually, I wrote a list. He's giving up his heritage. He's giving up his fan base. Most people will leave him. He's giving up prestige. And then also, we've talked about this. I did a whole series on the Gentiles. That would mean he's a Gentile. Most Gentiles are not going to follow Yah because they, because of this. Because if we're the Israelites, it means that they have to go against their friends and family. Talking about the Israelites are black. Most people aren't going to do that. Most people won't stand for that. Another thing is they have to start accepting the idea of, just the idea of what it means if it's us, meaning these uncomfortable truths, meaning like going into, to captivity or servitude, and then just everything that comes with that. Most people aren't going to follow God into that. So most people don't take the posture of seeking the Lord in this way with step 4, meaning they can't tell God, I'll follow you no matter what, because it's not true when it comes to if the Israelites are black. So let me just say this. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to run out of time. So I'm going to stop it here for Insta. Okay. And I'm going to pick it back up. So this is actually just going to be a two-parter for Instagram and Facebook. Sorry, YouTube. This is a two-parter. Okay. So anyways, so this is part 2. And again, I'm just talking about how Michael Brown's testimony shows the posture of how we should ask Yahuwah who the Israelites are. The point is, most people don't do this. Most people, again, to review, they just decide that whatever they believe is the case. They don't take the posture of seeking an encounter with our God, with our Creator, asking Yah, having an open heart for the answer, declaring before God, I will follow you no matter what this answer is. I'm following you. And then having our faith match our works. The faith is going into this and asking. The work is reading the Bible so that Yah can answer you through his word. What I'm saying is, most people don't do that. And even Mike Brown's testimony of how he came to Yahusha, he followed this protocol. And God showed up and confirmed with him that Christ is real. Christ is the Messiah. And I know even there's some people that right now that may watch this and you may say, Megan, that's your opinion and Mike Brown's opinion, but I don't believe that Messiah is the only way. Well, if you don't believe that Messiah is the only way, I challenge you to do what Mike Brown did. Remember, Mike Brown is Jewish. He grew up Jewish. So I challenge you. Nobody can say that it's a heart issue. Now, remember, I don't know your heart. Only God knows the contents of your heart. But what I'm saying is, most of the time, I don't even see people do this. I just see people say they believe whatever they believe, right? So in this case, even if you're somebody who you feel like, I don't believe that Christ is the only way, I challenge you too. It's not enough to just say, I don't believe. You have to do what Mike Brown didn't believe. He was Jewish. And remember, this is what I want to say. An encounter with God will take you to a place a debate can't. That's what I actually enjoy about Mike Brown is Jewish, and Mike Brown does not support the fact that Black people are Israelites 1,000%. But what I love about his story is that I think it shows an example on both ends. It showed that an encounter with God can take you to a place where debates can't. You can't debate. You just need an encounter. Remember, he was looking to see, is Jesus real? He was debating everybody. He was debating rabbis. He was debating teachers. And he even came to the conclusion, these debates, he said, no, he said, I got to go back and settle this with God. And he did. He prostrated himself before the throne. He had an encounter. He asked God. He had an open heart. He had a true open heart, meaning God looked down and said, I can trust telling you the truth because you have a heart that's open for the truth. He told God, step 4, which is imperative. He told God, I don't care what. If you tell me that Jesus is the only way right now and Yahusha is the only way, I'm riding with you. I really don't care. I'm riding with you. I just want to know the truth. He just wanted to know the truth. And then he had the faith that God would show up and answer. And the work, he said, after he prayed that prayer and cried out to God, he said he got in his Bible and God showed him immediately, confirming everything that Yahusha, the Messiah, is real. These are his words. So what I'm saying is, nobody can say that if you're not doing these things with a pure heart, the key, I think, is the humility to ask God. And then the next key is, the Bible says count the cost. So you got to count the cost. Mike Brown when it came to knowing who Jesus was, Mike Brown decided, I don't care what the costs are. I want the truth. And I'll follow you, God, no matter what. What I'm here to say is, he did that with this topic of who is Jesus. He hasn't. I know he hasn't. He won't do it with the topic of who are the Israelites. And I hope I'm articulating the point. But the point is, most people are not going to do that type of process when it comes to wherever you sit in this. If you're somebody that doesn't believe in the Christ, okay, well, until you do this process, you don't know. You have to try the process. Try the process. If you haven't come to God in this posture, then you don't know if Jesus is the only way. You haven't asked God. Most people I know, they haven't asked God. They haven't even done what Mike Brown did. They haven't asked God in the particular posture, humbling themselves, declaring, really telling God, I just want the truth. I don't care what the answer is. I'm following you no matter what. I don't care. A lot of people, I just feel like they haven't done that. Not for real, not from their heart. And I'm trying to say that it's the same thing when it comes to who are the Israelites. I'm not trying to hoodwink. That was the whole point of all of this. Most people have just decided they believe who the Israelites are. And you can't debate your way into that. Even me, I shared all types of videos, but here's the deal. These videos that I share, they are seeds. They're just seeds. I can't convince anybody. Really, the convincing comes on our knees to Yah. The convincing comes when we cry out to Yah and say, I will follow you no matter what. So no matter what your background is, if you have to say, I'm talking about, are the Israelites black? It's not just deciding that what I believe is what it is. And it's not going into debate. No, it's prostrating ourselves before the Lord, asking, coming with an open heart. Step 4 is where most people won't do it. Now, most people, they're not going to tell you that they're not going to do it. Most people aren't going to tell you, I'm not going to follow God through that. They won't tell you that. But, but step 4 is where it's at. Step 4 is telling God. So in the case of being the Israelites, with the Israelites being black, that's really, it's telling God, I don't care. I'll follow you. If the Israelites are black, I'll follow you. And actually prostrating and then saying, God, I'm trusting you to answer me in truth. I'm trusting you and I will receive it. Most people are not going to do that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because again, when you talk about the Israelites being black, most people, and this is, let me say this is not just about Mike Brown and he's Jewish and he's white, but this is not just about that. You have like a lot of black preachers. You got to think about it. This type of rhetoric chases people away. It chases away this. It chases away crowds. Most people ain't giving that up. And then the other nations, they would have to follow the Lord into the truth, no matter what, which means future servitude. Most people ain't gonna do that. And you could even talk about the present. Like I said, anybody who starts talking about the Israelites are black, you got to get ready to be called a cult member. You got to be ready for all of that. Most people aren't going to do that. So I'm just saying, this is what I'm saying. The reality is, again, Mike Brown, okay, his example of how he sought the Lord to see if Yahushua was real, I do think is a great example. I also think it shows that Mike Brown, even himself, Mike Brown understood when it came time to know if Jesus was real, he did this process. When it came time to know if the Israelites are black, he debated Dante Fortson. But I don't think he did the same process of prostrating before the Lord to ask. He has just decided that and I'm not knocking him because I'm using him as an example because I think that this is a lot of people. But in his case, he's decided, the world tells us this, media tells us this, I'm Jewish, this is what it is, this is what I believe, this is the popular narrative, this is what it is. And so he's decided that what he believes is real. Now, when it came time to know if Jesus was real, he had tradition, he had his background, he had, all of his culture, he had all of these things, but he risked that for an encounter to ask a pure question to God. And God answered. When it comes time to ask, are the Israelites black? I'm pretty sure he hasn't done that. He just debated and then stopped. But I don't think he went on to remember he did that before. He debated the rabbis and it wasn't enough. So he had to go and seek the Lord. In this case, he debated Dante Fortson, and I don't think he went on to do this process of prostrating to go ask, are the Israelites black? And I'm not blaming him. A lot of people, that's the whole point of this. So I just want to close out. Time. I'm just gonna okay. So for the record, I'm gonna be talking about a lot of stuff that has to do with Israelite topics. But I thought that this would be a reintroduction. That it's just a call, okay? It is a call and just a reminder that an encounter will take you to places that a debate can't. An encounter and asking Yah, making sure that you've prostrated before Yah and told him, I will follow you no matter what the truth is. Nobody, it's not about tossing scriptures at people. It's about an encounter, and it's about humbly asking Yahuwah what is the truth, and worshiping in spirit and truth. And then just closing this out, it's just a final call. Again, I can't prove anything about black folks being the Israelites. That's a personal revelation between an individual and Yahuwah. I just want to call that out. But I'm imploring you to think about it, as the topic about who are the true biblical Israelites, more than debating scriptures. Have you asked? Most people have not. And if you have you asked in a particular posture? And have you told Yah, I don't care what the truth is, I'm following you no matter what? And have you made room on faith for him to answer you through his word? If you haven't gone to God or Yahuwah with that particular posture and question, then it's not true that the Israelites aren't black. The truth is you don't know because you've never asked. That's the truth, I believe, for most people. Most people have not asked. And if they have, they just decided whatever they believed or they heard it, but they haven't really asked in a particular posture, humbly before Yah. So that's the call, is that before you decide what you believe, humbly go before the throne and ask in the posture that was discussed. Woo! Okay, this is done. So on YouTube, this will be one video. Facebook and Insta, this is 2. I hope you guys watch 1 and 2. If you've only watched this one, please go back and watch the first one on Facebook and Insta. And I think that's it. So I'm going to keep going. I'll probably talk about the land. I want to talk about that. So that'll probably be next. But I hope you got something out of this. To close out, I'll just reiterate the process of going before the throne to ask who the Israelites are. 1, seek an encounter. 2, ask Yah. 3, have an open heart for the answer. 4, declare before Yah you will follow him no matter what. And 5, have your faith match your works. The faith is going before him. The work is reading the word and letting him answer you through his word and the Holy Spirit. Okay, that's it. Hope you guys got something out of this. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.